Hello world, this is Stefan of Lindergan Games. Since the last Devblog, my Max Bialystok has found a Roger Debris and convinced him to come on board. Of course, every line of script has to be rewritten, but so be it. He did more in 2 weeks from scratch than I accomplished in a year, so I feel rather honored that somebody competent sees something worthwhile in the project. As you can see, we have some basic team command. For the next stretch, I'll be illustrating some more mechanics into this. Of course, one of the aims of the devblog was to explain to potential collaborators that their work wouldn't end up being discarded along with the project, but I'm still a bit taken aback by the fact that it worked. As for what I've been doing for the past month and a half, well, here it is. Now that I've rehashed old topics with the last video, I may as well continue the trend while I try to find more topics on which I can elaborate an opinion. The answer to what makes a game heavy metal should be simple. I am the speaker and arbiter, therefore the label heavy metal means whatever my product ends up being. Unfortunately for me, I'm still addicted to maintaining a sense of personal honor, so I have to reason out an objective definition and then attempt to make a product that fits it. For defining the definition, I'll be pairing 3 games and, well, a television series. Super Dungeon Bros, Doom, Brutal Legend, and Metalocalypse. Between Super Dungeon Bros and Doom, what makes Doom more of a heavy metal game? The immediate visual gap is that Super Dungeon Bros has a very clean look to it, whereas Doom is gritty. Rough edges in heavy metal music are a byproduct of guitar distortion and have consequently and naturally become a theme within associated imagery. Hence, Super Dungeon Bros' clean style clashes with the soundtrack. Similarly with the combat, the enemies in Super Dungeon Bros don't bleed, furthering the clean aesthetic, whereas Doom's enemies get very visually eviscerated. Mind you, I won't be addressing the quality of gameplay because I'm using the heavy metal labels purely as an attribute, not a mark of excellence nor shame. Continuing on with the mismarketing of Super Dungeon Bros, anytime that a narrative uses the phrase such and such of rock is not metal. Another piece of the essence of heavy metal is that it is a boisterous sound that, in order to be fully experienced, must be played loudly enough to be felt. Invoking outside entities mutes the self, and when the music inherently lends itself to being over the top, standing under something else's shadow acts against the experience. Of course, invoking others and maintaining identity isn't impossible. The Beastie Boys were shameless Adidas commercials, but they posited so much of their own words and stylings that their identity far overshadows the casual shilling. Similarly, Jimmy Pop's raps are far superior to Lil Wayne's because Jimmy Pop uses pop cultural references to illustrate a personality, and Lil Wayne uses them instead of one. That ultimately is the crux of Super Dungeon Bros failing in its attempt to seem heavy metal. In its advertisement, when one of the characters says, "We have the right to fight and party," I can't fully experience the game because my mind has been launched into a Beastie Boys CD. To extract definition from this pairing, to be heavy metal, a game needs to posit a self-imposing experience that willingly offends, or at least is rough around the edges. My pairing of Brutal Legend with Metalocalypse doesn't add any new dimensions to the definition, but it does add further clarity. Like I said earlier, heavy metal is an attribute, not a badge of honor, so I refuse to lambaste Brutal Legend for not being a heavy metal game. Yes, it seems at first to be one, but it isn't actually trying to be one. It's a love letter game, invoking heavy metal themes, music, and surrounding culture, and concurrently removing its own identity from the picture in order to make way for its beloved. Metalocalypse, on the other hand, provides its own concrete specifics. Death and destruction are framed in how they happen around Deathclock. The music is Deathclock's songs. The culture is that which surrounds Deathclock. As such, the television show is boisterous as it shamelessly goes over the top, and it maintains the clear sense of projection of self as everything remains anchored to a concrete definitive. An ancillary note also worth addressing is comedy. Brutal Legend's comedic tone further disqualifies it from being heavy metal because it is goofy. Goofy comedy is clean and purposefully inoffensive, two traits opposite of a loud, crackling guitar. Comedy that fits the tone of heavy metal is necessarily edgy, or at the least unclean, two suits in which Metalocalypse plays all of its cards. That's all I have to say on that, so to end with one more rehash, heavy metal media is a dirty landmark with rough edges and preferably sharp corners.